Our next guest this evening is a veteran of the current Page and Plant World Tour. He featured in the MTV Unleaded special that inspired it, and he's one of the acknowledged masters of the hurdy-gurdy, and I bet you haven't seen many of them. And he's one of the best in the world today, and Nigel Eaton joins me now. Nigel,
Hi.
It's great to have you here.
Good to meet you again. Before
we talk about this wonderful instrument that you've got beside you there, just tell us how you actually got in touch with the mighty Page and Plant machine.
Well, what was it? I was driving around London with my business card. Nigel Eaton, hurdy-gurdy player, desperate for a session, honestly. Could have done with the work big time. And I just drove around all the recording studios and put my card in. And cosmically, Robert was thinking about having a hurdy-gurdy player on Fate of Nation at the time. And of course, I only just sent his tech out to find a hurdy-gurdy player, sort of scratching his head. What the hell was that, you know? And the girl behind the set desk said, "Oh, there you go, this guy's just come in." I was back in the studio within about an hour to see Fate of Nations.
And what was it like meeting Robert Plant? I mean, why had he decided, for example, that he wanted a hurdy-gurdy player?
I don't know. I mean, Jimmy owned a hurdy-gurdy back in 1968. He was probably one of the first people to know what they were.
Jimmy Page?
Yeah.
Really?
He's got a really old one, which doesn't work. He's got a good one now.
Yeah.
And
you sorted him out?
I did. Well, my dad did. And I don't know, it was just weird. Dead weird, you know. And I mean, decided he wanted one, and I'd just been in.
Yeah.
And we did these couple of tracks on the hurdy-gurdy, which didn't go particularly well for me. And then, blow me down, they phoned me up and asked me to do the MTV thing.
So it was a complete surprise after that initial association?
I thought on the CV, you know, Robert Plant, and that was the end of that.
And so there you were at the scene of the, basically the unofficial Led Zeppelin reunion. What was that like?
Bizarre in the extreme. I mean, I'd known they'd always had interest in folk music and occasionally hurdy-gurdies through Jimmy's interest in cosmic instruments, and there I was playing these hurdy-gurdy things. I mean, possibly if Jimmy's hurdy-gurdy had worked back in '68, there would have been hurdy-gurdy on Zep 2, 3, and 4, and God knows what else.
Zep 3, they could have certainly fitted
for sure.
there.
Yeah, and then there's Battle of Evermore, which sounds great, and Gallows Pole, it's a folk tune anyway.
Yeah.
So it went great for me.
Did they tell you what to play? I mean, you're one of
No, they've pretty well left me to do what I wanted.
Yeah.
I just come up with an occasional riff, and blast my way through Gallows Pole, and they've yet to say they don't like it. So, I mean, they're quite into hurdy-gurdy still. I mean, after the tour's been going since February, and they're still into hurdy-gurdies. I thought they might have moved on to Guatemalan gongs or something by now, but they're still very keen on hurdy-gurdies.
And how about the audiences? I mean, you've played all over the world now.
We have, yeah. I mean,
how does it go down?
Well, you know where I started from. It's like folk clubs.
Yeah, you played in folk bands, yeah.
Yeah, in folk festivals to about 30 people, and now it's like thousands of 30,000, you know. Yeah. It's actually easier than you might think. I always wondered how pop stars actually managed to get on stage and do their thing. But it's actually quite straightforward. And I wasn't nervous at all, and hurdy-gurdy's hasn't let me down, but the audience are jumping. I mean, they spend most of the time going, what on earth is that, you know? And you get this monstrous drone, devilish sort of thing coming out of it. So nobody knows if I play a bum note or anything. Really. It's just very weird.
That's a very good cue to talk about the instrument. I mean, a lot of people will never have, they might have heard of a hurdy-gurdy, but they probably don't know what it is. Just to explain it, show us how it works.
Well, they date back to the 10th century, so they're medieval.
Wow.
In churches, you get hurdy-gurdy players, sort of angels playing hurdy-gurdies carved in the walls and everything. Then in the same church, you'll have a picture of a devil or something playing hurdy-gurdies. There's quite a contradiction with them. But the way it works is quite straightforward. If you imagine it on your shoulder there, it works very much like a violin. So the bow going across the strings, you've got a handle which turns the wheel, right? And there's nothing inside, it's just an empty box. And the wheel will turn continuously and drone and play all the strings that are put into contact with it. Instead of the fingers on the fingerboard here, you've got keys, 2 octaves, so you can play pretty well any tune. Except that it's limited, of course, that it's got drones going through it all the time, which just makes it peculiar to itself.
Or
like a bagpipe, exactly, yeah.
So is this like, this is a French instrument originally, it's a Breton instrument?
Well, nobody really knows. They date back to the 10th century and nobody sort of knows exactly where. They're thought to be Central European and developed within 100 years of each other in lots of different places. As soon as you decide to have an instrument with a wheel, instead of plucking it or bowing it, the instrument's going to end up looking something like this. So I'll turn the handle and make a bit more sense. That's a bass drone. That's like a bagpipe drone or something, except it's a string. Of course, it's a bow.
Oh God, you can see this.
can see that one
string
vibrating,
going absolutely
yeah.
wild, yeah.
And
Did you start playing this? I mean, your father makes these instruments.
Yeah.
Is there any other reason why you took up with it?
Well, it was a very good way of not going to my cello lessons at the time, which I was completely useless at. And Dad presented me with this, and that was the deal, really.
Yeah.
And I watched him make them for a year, because he took forever to build the first one.
Yeah.
And when you watch your dad build something completely stupid, you think, yeah, you sort of understand how it's supposed to work. I mean, I got bored in the end waiting. I built a little one of my own, which I sort of learnt to play on. Then Dad presented me with this sort of monstrous, all singing, all dancing hurdy-gurdy.
It's great the way the history of pop rock music is almost like the flight from learning to play classical instruments, as you've done brilliantly.
Exactly, yeah. And I was playing piano, but honestly, I wasn't getting anywhere, to be honest.
Anyway, Nigel, thanks very much for coming in and showing
you.
this wonderful instrument. In a moment, you can see Nigel on video doing his thing with Page and Plant, but first, here he is on our state-of-the-art studio, doing it just for us on stage.